think it would be great if we could do that educational piece
Yeah.
prior at the very least,
Yeah.
so that it
And
doesn't become.
we'll have an opportunity at the summit in
Summit,
January, right?
That's
Which
right.
is great, because if this is adopted, or, you know, whatever recommendations at the November meeting, we'll be in good stead to give an update and use that as an opportunity for education.
And that's 2 years in a row, so it should be
That's strong.
enough.
So I
education.
guess the question then is, do we want to keep both sentences in that recommendation, or do we want to drop the second one and just let council say? We can't do it that quickly, of course, staff to say that. What do you think?
Well, I kind of feel like it's their job, so if they want to set it as a timeline, I think it makes sense to recommend it. I'm kind of like of two minds. You don't want to tell them what their timing is, or, I mean, of course, they'll say, well, thanks for your recommendation, but we're going to slot it into something else.
One
It's
idea-
soft, it's gesturing the softness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One idea that Rod had, which I think is actually a really, really interesting one, is to start it up in, I think I'm remembering this correctly, is to start it in July 2018 and have like an 18-month period for the first year of
So
business
there's no fee
licensing.
for the first 6 months.
Essentially.
As long as you sign up before the first of the calendar year. Because, and I say that because of prorated business licenses in other jurisdictions that I know of.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a soft landing for someone to sign up if there's not a big
And did they all
financial.
follow the calendar year? Sorry if that's an obvious question. Do they all?
They seem to.
January?
Yes.
Okay, so that's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
I think that's a
simpler.
lovely idea, so maybe it could be reworded to say it launches in July, a transition period from July to December,
Yeah.
and then the first, however, payments due in January,
So
like a soft
we
launch.
recommend they consider a transition period.
Yeah, soft launch, whatever you want to call it.
Mid-year launch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's a nice idea.
yeah. And then it's not something coming from
Yeah, like.
January
Yeah.
2019,
Yeah.
2019, you suddenly have to start paying your license. You've been learning about it over a 6-month period.
Yeah.
You've signed on.
And it will ease up the uptake of data for the muni as well.
Mhm.
Take the 200 licenses all over.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. And then the third recommendation, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Is that,
their call? Yeah.
Sort of.
is that maybe what staff should be looking at, or is that?
They will be. I mean,
Yeah.
these recommendations would go forward to staff, and staff would look and say, that doesn't make sense, or that makes perfect sense.
So it's good to give them something to say yea or nay to. Okay.
I mean, these are based on what we've been learning too, so it's just, this.
Bonnie might have something to say.
Yes.
She might. Okay, so that's a keeper. So in the next little cluster, require all businesses to obtain a business license. Require nonprofit organizations to register, but waive the licensing fee.
Would agree with that.
Okay. And the rationale around that is the health and safety issue. If you've got a nonprofit organization that is in unsafe space, it could be good to know.
And for the same reason as a lot of us, we want the stats. We want to know they exist, we want to know their address and that they're up to date.
They are part of our economy. or
Yeah.
what-
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Require non-resident businesses operating on Bowen Island to obtain a business license.
That's an interesting one.
It is an interesting one.
It really falls under 4, but
It does, yeah. I mean, there's that blanket
Yeah.
statement, but this is just sort of clarifying more what a business is. And somebody could potentially think that a non-resident business wasn't a Bowen business.
Right. So many of the comparator communities just said anyone doing business here needs a business license. And that's basically the principle here. No offshore businesses.
That would be applied to the undercurrent, for example,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
or the Cape Cod Bowen.
Yep.
Well, sorry, a quick example. I mean, some of them said if they're coming in, electrician's coming in for a day, we're not worried about it. That's one community said that. But there was another one that, again, had software installed on their municipality computers that was based in Ontario, and although they didn't have anybody visit, they required them to have a business license. But again, enforcement of that happening.
Yeah, Bonnie,
Is it okay if I just,
Yeah, please.
just a thought, just talking about clarity and how the whole idea is received by the community is, I heard earlier that the crafters and such, we don't want them to maybe get up in arms and think that they will have to register as business. So it's almost like non-home-based businesses, or a real clear unless you mean them, unless they're going to be included. But to just sort of differentiate, so maybe that's part of the unrolling and education.
Mhm.
But I don't want to think that the crafters, that they perceive that they will have to get a license. And I don't know if that's what you're saying, but home-based businesses are allowed under the land use bylaws. So I don't know if you want to differentiate between the two. in your rollout. I'm not sure. It's just a question.
That was one of the secondary questions in the interviews, was what the cutoff. And there is no, nobody had an answer for that. And again, some said if a crafter sold their jam through a store, then the store would be covered. And another example of it was markets. So one required that the market had a license and the people selling didn't. The market license covered those crafters. But another said, no, if they're having a regular market, we want the vendors to have one. So it varied, but the cutoff is fuzzy, and but not too much, of a concern in general. Those, again, crafters aren't going to affect too many things.
Well, my only thought on that was I was hoping we would have depending on how many different types we have, that there would be one that covered artisans, because again, a lot of this is data, and I think it would be useful to know how many artisans there are on Bowen. Because if we're going to be applying for grants, or we're going to be as part of tourism, marketing, or whatever, to say we have 100 artisans operating on Bowen would be really useful information. And as long as the fee is reasonable, I don't see why people would, and anyways, and I think some of the concerns might be bylaw and enforcement, because they don't want to get in trouble for they're doing something else, which I don't think is a big deal, but anyways, I would be in favor of getting to, but it's, is it somebody who makes one batch of jam and sells it once at Christmas? Yeah. We might. But if we could get back to this one about the non-resident businesses, I get that, what you're saying, so the Undercurrent, for example, that operates here and sells the paper in his local. Would an example, because I know as an architect, I find it really annoying when I go to do a job in another municipality, and then to submit the permit, I have to buy a business license from them or something, or same with trades, I'm sure, right? So is that what we're talking about? That if
that would be an example.
that would be an example. So if an architect or an electrician, like you said, comes to do one job on the island, they're supposed to buy a business
Yep.
license. And what's the rationale behind that?
it can be a safety issue, actually.
Okay.
It's also an equity issue, because the contractors from here have to go and buy business licenses elsewhere.
Yeah.
And they've often said to us, well, people just get to come here and do whatever they want. We've got to do it, play by the book elsewhere.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of rationales there. But,
Okay.
but knowing who's actually coming here and doing wiring in people's homes,
Yeah.
would be helpful.
Yeah, but they have another safety structure in place, but I think it speaks to the underlying premise of business licenses. And besides health and safety, I don't know, again, quantifying markets and studying and stuff, I don't know if that's a rationale for business licenses, because we haven't really, did we come across that as in
No.
any other communities as
No,
as a rationale for quantifying number of businesses and doing economic development and marketing and so on.
Data.
Data
Data as a rationale.
for business licenses.
We didn't see
You did
those.
not come across that.
I don't.
No.
No, I don't think so.
And nobody
It maybe
that I
used to,
spoke to
right?
talked, or nobody compiled data from the business licensing.
Okay.
But some do make it available on their website as
Yeah,
a list, right? So people
The
could,
businesses.
the businesses,
Yes,
yeah, that
they
are
could.
licensed. So people
Right.
could do that, but it's not a rationale for the program.
No, it'd be a fringe benefit for
A
us.
fringe
too.
benefit.
The other issue, of course, with this particular one too, is that it offers, if we have a business license scheme, then we can become part of an intermunicipal business license as well. So contractors both from here and elsewhere would then be covered for Bowen Island activities as well.
Yeah.
So that would be the.
I think,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't wanna belabor the point, but yeah, it's,
Well, I think it's worth just, again, underlining it in the sense that having business licenses from an economic development perspective, I think there is an argument there. It's not something we specifically discussed, and so I don't want to drag it out, but something for council maybe to consider. And that is, if our partner communities around here in Metro and other people that influence our economic development, trades coming back and forth from those communities, as an example. And bed and breakfasts and home use for vacation rentals and all these things, like these are in major flux in policy and bylaw all around us. And so if we don't have the same baseline tools, we will have less opportunity to guide how our community develops as all of this policy and stuff gets figured out. And so we need to have a even playing field with our partner communities, so then we can decide how we want our community to look relative to theirs.
So guys, I'm just aware of the time.
Yeah.
We've got
Yeah.
several of these to get through. So
Sorry, Bonnie, you were gonna ask another question.
I don't know if, I think it's going too far into the minutia, but just a thought that came to me too about agricultural land and just overlapping sort of legislation with farm gate sales and such. So this is more the research that we'll do, like
Yeah.
to define what businesses are going to be included.
And there's lots out there, so we can draw from lots of other,
Yeah.
there's hundreds of communities in BC that have done this too, so.
So,
Great, let's move on.
so just in response to a comment that was made, 4 to 8, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sort of the major recommendation, and then the other points will be sub-points, and that should clarify how the relationship's working there. So 7 is require B&Bs, commercial guest accommodation, guest houses to obtain a business license. I think that's a no-brainer.
does that include Airbnb? Is it worthy of mentioning that specifically, or are you excluding that specifically?
I'm not addressing it specifically because I'm making a distinction between a marketing platform, which is Airbnb,
Yeah.
and you can market a B&B, commercial guest accommodation, guest houses, or an illegal use
Yeah.
through Airbnb. So it muddies the waters to bring Airbnb in as a category when
Okay.
these 3 are categories within the land use bylaw.
That makes sense.
Very nice.
Yep, that was very hard to get to that
That
point.
was good.
Yeah.
No, we really wrestled that one, thank you.
Yeah.
So then, request a business license for an attached or detached secondary suite if the owner of the property is non-resident.
Mhm.
So, and that really should be point D on requiring all businesses to obtain a business license, right?
Yeah, that will fall under that. So the reason for that, and I don't know if it's a good reason, but the reason for that was that it might be helpful for bylaw if there was an attached or detached secondary suite where the owner wasn't there, if you actually knew that that use was going on the property and had a contact person for follow-up if that was necessary. I think that was going to require discussion. And council may not support it, but I think it's worth putting on a list to go forward to staff. So 9, that one sounds good?
So when we are referencing low, what does that mean? Do you want to give a range? No.
Yeah, I want staff to come up with that.
And you've got research to back up what.
Yeah, it's about 15 different
Yeah.
pricings.
And then investigate the municipal accounting information system for online payment. Do not pursue this path.
Do not go there.
Yeah.
Do not go there.
It looks like the no-brainer, and it's
Yeah,
really a
interesting,
no,
yeah.
there's
Don't
no
do it.
brainer at all.
Don't do it.
Don't do it, yeah.
Okay, and then there's convey the rationale for business licensing clearly to the community. So this is the education piece. Develop a communication strategy, update at the event in January.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
Develop an education and enforcement strategy for business licensing, including raising awareness regarding appropriate land use. That actually kind of combines with 12, doesn't it?
It does.
So maybe tease those together. Use the business licensing program to begin to address issues related to short-term rentals.
Just puts it on the radar, doesn't it?
Yeah. Defer discussion with North Shore, re-intermunicipal, monitor the regional.
Okay.
So is there anything missing?
Should 16 go up and be point E on our require all business? Or is that a distinct point? About addressing the short-term rentals?
I think it's distinct, because in point 4, you're saying all businesses, and then these are examples of, different kinds.
Right.
That one's really more about, because people are gonna ask, right? Like just like I did, they're gonna say, what about Airbnb? So I think that's a whole separate point that says, using this program will address we'll explore how to address it.
Right.
So I think it's, yeah.
Well, it's a tool we
Yeah,
now have to fix it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just see if I've got any other feedback from anybody else regarding anything missing.
Is there anything in here, I know we've just talked about it, but is there anything written in here about exploring that level of craft or artisan, all of that stuff? Or should we just not go there and leave that to staff, or for future discussion
Yeah,
once the...
I would think probably leave it to
Okay.
staff. There's a mention in the discussion regarding the mayor's annual
Yeah.
has a really simple little bylaw,
Yeah.
and it could be a potential model. Okay, so then financial implications, it's got to be revenue neutral, cost recovery, communication strategies outlined with online and face-to-face. If we don't approve, council doesn't approve proceeding, you could consider deleting the requirement in the land use bylaw, or it could allow it to remain and continue to choose not to enforce the section. And that's a legal alternative that we do have. And then there's this conclusion. If we were to put it in place, it would be, this is to Barry's point, a routine part of municipal operations as it is in almost all municipalities in BC. And then the alternatives are that council can ask us to address specific issues or concerns that they identify, so it gets thrown back to us, or they can provide other direction. And then there's lots of attachments that follow up on points in the report itself.
Including the Village Van Wars bylaw, right, to
Yeah,
the date.
yeah, it's that.
Wow.
You need to
Very
recognize
good.
more for putting together that
That's a lot of work, guys, and you guys too, Rod and Barry, you did a lot of hauling of data, and phone calls and writing, so, wasn't all meetings in the pub. So really appreciate the work. There's a lot of work went into this, and I think because of that, I think it's, we really owe it to our community. We're gonna introduce something that's gonna be, it's a bit scary, it's a bit unknown, massively useful. Something people have been both asking for and wanting more detail on, and this is a tremendous start. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done on this, and really appreciate you shepherding us through the
Well, and it felt like we have a top line handle on it, on the issues. And so I think whatever council decides is, you feel comfortable you've explored the issues.
And we're now a resource to them, I think, on this issue. We've got some good capacity around this table too, so if they have any questions at all, we've got lots of ability to help them out. So if they want to have a more fulsome discussion and invite some from the task force to come, that would be
Absolutely.
great.
So we
What
need
is
to
the
pass the resolution?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the recommendation is here under what was 5.1 on the agenda, that the EDC support the recommendations, we've just gone through them, as amended and as changed by one, for the business licensing feasibility study prepared by the task force. And that council direct the Economic Development Committee to include its 2017 work plan, include in its 2018.
No, that's just restating the resolution from back in 2016.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
I added that just for clarity for the committee.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need that in there. Do you want that restated?
If you do, just indent it so it's a quote. But it's just in response to Council Resolution 16249. So we're just reporting on work they've asked us to do, we've completed it, and here it is, and it's up to them to give us the next steps. So given that recommendation, can I have a mover? A seconder for
I was
that?
gonna say Maureen.
Hi, Maureen. I think And all those in favor of the recommendation? Thank you, unanimously carried. Well done,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
Great work.
Wow.
So thank you for giving us the time to go through
Thanks,
this.
Bonnie.
Yeah, thanks, Bonnie.
Great work.
Great, great. Thanks, Britton.
And so I'm
Thanks
sorry,
for your
that will go
support.
to council, do we know when that will,
27.
it will go on the 27th?
Yeah.
So will you be expected to present it to council, or how does that work?
I'm not quite sure yet whether it will be part of the council agenda or whether we might have a bit of a cow that's related to this committee of the whole, which would allow for more discussion. Sort of depends on what else is coming up there. But I think ordinarily council gets a PowerPoint with key points that they need to appreciate. So that would go forward along with the report. And I would hope that everyone who on the task force who can be there will be there, and we'll figure out who speaks on which point.
Right, okay. So that was my next question, to ask how we can support you in that and where things are. Having said November 27th, okay, I can.
It's a morning meeting.
Okay.
I will be in Amsterdam, but John should be around.
Oh, boy.
Just to let you know.
We're heading out of the country that day, but I don't know what time on the 27th.
Robert, are you around?
So
I'm around.
Great.
I'll let you know.
Come, I'll be there.
What time would it typically be good for us to be there?
10-ish.
For the meeting, for what time you're gonna appear?
Yeah.
So they'll, when they make the agenda, they'll let you know, but if,
We could make a special request for a time. It may not be accommodated, but we could request.
Well, yeah, that'd be my next question is what sort of time should I block off? So from 10 to 2 or?
oh, no,
No, the meeting would be over
Okay,
by 12.
okay.
yeah.
So
The
just-
earlier the better for me. I think if it's earlier, then a good chance I'll be there.
Okay.
Of all days, specifically. And I'm
Great.
away for a month.
Yeah, I'm away for like 2 weeks. Well, gotta make a living. It's not a holiday.
Cheryl here.
Hi,
I was
oh.
just gonna add, I think it's great that you guys are moving in that direction. As fate would have it, I was chatting with Mayor Tofino this morning,
Ah.
and due to their purchase of Host Compliance, which is the software to monitor
Right.
the system with enforcement, they're now 80% compliant on their short-term rental.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So it is, there's an enforcement cost attached to that with staff, but right now they're almost breaking even related to that. So
Yeah.
you're on a good path there, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, let's move on. We have, we'll try and wrap up by 11, I think, if we can, so we've got we're actually making good time. We have the Internet Task Force. Did John leave anything? He didn't leave anything with me. This is item 5.4. Attracting tech companies to Vaughan.
Oh, that was, I included that because he, in my notes, said we need to talk about this, let's talk about this next meeting. So I just, I
Once we have
threw it in
high
there.
Yeah, let's talk
Yeah.
about this, the next meeting,
Yeah,
John's
okay.
here. We'll just
I
defer.
have a feeling it might have been also because we heard the rumors and we thought there
Yes.
might have been something by this meeting,
Right.
but there's no official.
So we're not doing 5.2?
There's birds.
Maureen, you don't have any comment on dates? We'll hear something. Okay.
This has been the weirdest thing we've been asked with. Like, I've been in the dark the whole time while everybody else knows what's going on. So I'm just happy to keep
Oh.
a sense of blissful ignorance
Yeah, me too.
and checking my upload speeds and download speeds every day for, just,
Yeah.
Do you want to do 5.2?
5.2, oh yes, 5.2, yes, I do want to do that one. So the business summit, just give a quick report. We met a few days ago, Robin and Barry, Jacqueline and Rod and I. Robin and I mostly, with some good stuff from you guys. Oh no, Barry, you couldn't make it.
No.
No, I gave you regrets though,
Yeah.
after we talked
Oh,
about
We had regrets from Barry. So
I haven't
basically
yet,
we're,
so- No, I'd send her.
Because you didn't know.
You had it in your calendar, but you didn't.
No, I
Oh, this, yeah.
Yeah, I called Barry and said, hey, are you at the meeting? And he said, what meeting?
Right.
So, yeah, there we go.
Thanks for your regrets, Barry.
I didn't know we had set a date.
No, it wasn't one for everybody, but I'm glad for you guys who came. We discussed,
I volunteered you for
Okay.
Yeah.
doing that.
we have a business summit coming up on January 23rd, 2018. And it will run in the evening as it did last year. We will be hosting a number of conversations. We talked about some of the stuff that worked well in the last one, including small group conversations, having good questions to ask that actually we need answers for, and the networking aspect, and then just useful presentation stuff. So we've got lots on that. We need a presentation on the business licensing. I think this is a really it'll be a good time for us to be able to get something out, and I think we can have some discussion on that. And I think some of the discussion on that can really be about some of the questions we might have about implementation. So this is a good opportunity for us to engage that way. Some of the other issues that have come up for us to deal with, one of them is housing. So I think an open conversation on two questions. One is stories of how housing issues are affecting business directly. So we hear those stories all the time. I think it's good to connect business owners to each other so they know they're not the only ones having these issues, and we can glean some information from that. And then the second question we want to ask them is, what kinds of solutions are you willing to invest in, either with your taxes or your own capital or your time? So we don't want this to be sort of the council should do this, or the province should do this. We know there's lots of those issues out there. We're actually interested in what issues are businesses willing, people who are in that room willing to invest in. And again, it could be time, money, or
That's a
whatever.
great question.
Right? Just to narrow it down. And I think people are, we'll just use people's creativity to be able to get a range of ideas. That gives us a lot to go on, both for Robin and your work with the Housing Network and with Council as well, I think. We have thought about,
Chris, just to give you a little information, the summary from the last Vital conversation will be coming out around about that time as well. I haven't seen anything, I just know the timing. So the housing issue, I imagine, will be somewhat top of mind.
And this question is kind of a reaction to the conversations we had there, which were quite high level and abstract. So the two questions, first of all, grounding it in actual stories that businesses are having. Like, tell me a story. Don't give me your opinion on affordability. And the second one is really about so what kinds of things could we start because we have the resources now and the commitment. And if we actually did mobilize something, businesses would be like, oh my God, thank you, I'm there, I'm totally there. I'll put my time or my money into that. And there may not be anything that, to be honest, there might not be anything. People could just go, you know what, it's up to the province to create an affordable housing strategy. And give that as well, and it gives us information as well. So we'll host those kinds of pieces. We also thought about having a presentation on business continuity around the emergency planning work that Robin is doing, and I think we could have a little bit of presentation and conversation around that. Serve a meal. There's also another piece. It was less well defined, but I think it was more kind of an instruction to ourselves about the quality of the gathering, and that is that what we really want to be doing is encouraging people to collaborate with the meeting. There's the new task force that's coming up around, so if we can do some stuff around how to work well with the municipality and how to do some. What do you shake?
I just see Steph shaking her head. It's not happening?
Okay, well, there's still an openness from the municipality to collaborate with businesses, and I think what people are, I think Rod raised this point too, is that people don't necessarily know that. It's like there's not a sense that there's an open, come up and visit us and let's make some stuff happen. We developers know that because that's kind of one of the reasons municipalities exist, to make it easy for developers to do their work. But I think other business people don't, and I think that
there is a policy, right? A collaboration policy or something like that?
No, that's a collaborative projects policy, and it relates to the use of municipal land specifically.
Right. So I think that's an interesting thing. So anyway, it's part of it, like I say, it sort of informs how we do things, and the idea here is that we're actually partners in this work. And if we do begin to move forward on some of the community economic development work that we're thinking of doing, that even becomes even more so. The municipality, local businesses, local community organizations, and nonprofits actually become partners in what we're all trying to do here. And I think signaling that and creating a relationship where that's the case is going to be quite helpful going forward, especially internal education.
So that the housing piece is going to focus specifically on housing and business.
Yeah, it'll be mostly business owners there. We also did think about opening this up to other organizations as well.
Yeah.
So as business owners, I mean, some of the kinds of people we're talking about, like, for example, community organizations, nonprofits.
Sorry, the only thing I was gonna say is you use the word business, and I know this is something Jacqueline's brought up before, should we rephrase it as local economy? So when you said stories of how housing has affected, because I think we do want to include other organizations, I don't know exactly what they are, but there might be organizations out there. So for example, the Museum and Archives, maybe they struggle to find interns for the summer because of housing. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas they're not a business, but they're an organization that is also struggling with housing issues. So I think just that really simple little rephrasing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Could I add one more thought on that? That is, what about inviting not-for-profits or other organizations to come, to give them a little bit of direction to do a short presentation at the summit? So we have a not-for-profit actually being represented and doing a short presentation. And I'm thinking something along the lines of, how does your not-for-profit improve our local economy?
Well, I would, of course, self-interest, but the Arts Council, actually, our budget, 50% of our budget, which we self-generate, and of course, everything we do, we invest back in the community, so it's really easy to explain that, and how that, I mean, everything we do, everything we spend, so our budget's about $250,000, and it goes directly back into the local economy. So it's.
So yeah, so if we had business owners all
illustration-
gathered together and
illustration
then
of what
illustrate that. Yeah.
what that impact is. It's quite simple to articulate that.
That'd be great.
But I'm not sure what, Rod, I mean, as much as that's an easy thing to do, and that's, what's the intention of that? What would
Well,
be
I guess my thought
the goal of doing that?
was not, I mean, I appreciating that Bayek could do that handily.
Yeah.
Maybe helping to draw out some of the smaller organizations that aren't as, encouraging them to take on more of that approach in their organization. And for an example, I was talking with the co-presidents of BAW, the Bow and Iron Agricultural Alliance, that helps work with Sarah Haxby and the farmers market and so on. And they don't really have from what I can see, they don't really have a strategic document. They don't really have a structure, and they need help. And putting something out there for them to sink their teeth into to help them reach a little bit further in the community and show how they are positively impacting that economic development would be
they're
fantastic.
providing a service.
They're
It's just not for profit.
Mhm.
Well,
But-
and even if
which
you
is an integral part
could
of
spark discussions around nonprofit and business partnerships and collaborations, I mean, that would be so exciting. But even, and around that, I don't know if this would come up as a discussion piece, is social enterprise. I mean, that's what, probably a model that would be ideal for
Right.
a lot of nonprofits.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's part of their mandate.
Right.
It really depends on the mandate.
Yeah, so the piece here really, I mean, we did also talk about having a conversation at the summit here about tourism, about the way the year has been,
That's right.
what's next and what's important, and kind of what else is up for people around that. And to me, this is how it connects actually, because if we know that what we're beginning to think about now is to go into really looking at how to deepen the experience here of visitors on Bowen, and to really we've got the tourism numbers, we've got bodies, and we're wanting now to go from breadth to depth. And that is not just about businesses responding, but that is about our community economy responding in general, which includes people like BAH and the Arts Council and the Foundation and other nonprofits and social enterprises that can help to create the fabric for that. So to me that, I mean, I'm sort of seeing this bigger picture, but that does lead into some of the work we're doing around a strategy, around having a person tasked with kind of like putting these pieces together and helping to create some of that additional support. because these ideas are good, but we don't have anybody that can do that right now. So anyway, so it's the kind of thing that we might signal with, and I don't want to spend too much time talking over the agenda here, but it's the kind of thing we might signal with a set of conversations at this gathering, and I think this is rich. So what I've committed to doing is, Robin's going to, I think, put together an invitation text. Is that what you agreed?
Yes.
And I'm going to put together a kind of a flow for some of the things that we need to talk about, and I'll do it the same way I've done this other work. I'll put it up on a Google Doc, and we can continue to refine it. So these points are excellent, and so there's definitely a way we can put those together into a bigger conversation about our local community economy. Think about it that way.
And Maureen, you looked like you were gonna say something a few minutes ago.
A little red flag was going up for me in terms of potentially losing focus if we try to do too much. Because one of the real strengths of that last summit was that it had two sharp focal points.
Yep.
And they had an impact. So people were able to, they understood the importance of really engaging. So just a little red flag.
That's, as a process designer, that's my
There
big
you
red
go.
flag.
Yeah.
But I agree, so I'm like looking for, I'm gonna just be sensing for a focus that can
Yeah.
kind of contain this conversation.
Sounds good.
At the same time, kind of flagging that we're thinking about local economy differently because of the questions we're asking. So we'll
Make it happen.
make it happen. So that's in process, so thank you for the work that's been done there. Can we move along? We have, if we go to item 6, so Community Economic Development Officer, there's maybe a couple of things we'll talk about this. What have you got to share with us?
Okay, so I gave you guys, they're pretty rough notes. There's graph, a lot of it will be supplemented by speech and my notes, but this is just a starting point. At the last meeting, Chris brought up the conversation of hiring a full-time staff member to be a Community Economic Development Officer, and members wanted more information regarding that, and I was asked to identify other small communities in BC which employ a Community Economic Development Officer,
Wow.
provide information on what the role is